Welcome to Faith-Led Healing with Tammy Trayer, Integrative Health Practitioner and Certified Breathworker. Tammy's passion is to help people take their life and health into their own hands so they can live their best life ever. Imagine having the energy to fulfill your dreams and create the life you desire. Rebalance your body by removing the stresses and toxicity and start healing. Listen as Tammy guides you along the healthy path with the Lord leading the way.
Thank you for joining the Faith-Led Healing Podcast. Consult your physician before starting any health regimen or protocol, especially if you are pregnant, breastfeeding, or if you have any unique or special medical conditions. The content of our podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended to cure, treat, mitigate, or diagnose any medical condition or disease. Hey, my friends, welcome to Faith-Led Healing Podcast. I am your host, Tammy Trayer, and I am joined with my co-host,
Austin Trayer.
We are here today. This is episode number 58. So if you're new here, you can find the show notes by going to faithledhealing.com/podcast-58. Today, we are going to talk about the different and varying protocols that we use to help Austin with high-functioning autism. And what we were able to accomplish was rebalancing his body and his system. And, you know, I give God all the glory because God was in it every step of the way, every step of the way. It was really, I say this from my perspective, it was, as a mom, it was could be viewed as a very stressful and very tiring position to be in. However, it was such a great journey. It was such a great journey for me to watch him progress. So, you know, what are your I never asked you this. What's your perspective on your own journey?
It was definitely crazy. Not knowing if I'd be able to get to this place that I am now.
But you did.
Mm-hmm.
And you worked hard. And I'm really proud of you for that because it took both of us. It took me diving deep and researching and pushing wherever I had to, but it took you doing the work. You know, I see this a lot with my clients, and in order for them to find that end result, that place they want to get to, they have to be motivated. They have to be all in. They have to work hard, and not everybody's committed like that, but I'm so grateful that when I would find something, you never fought me on it. You really didn't. You never fought me on it. I know that when we talk about the diet, that was probably your least favorite of all because he's a food monger. He's a guy. He loves food.
Yeah, I always would sneak something.
Yeah, so that was definitely made things more complicated. But we'll talk about that. But I just want you to know how...
especially like to get the cheese sticks that they had at school.
I'm sure. And cheese was like the ultimate worst. So don't follow his lead. Follow the diet because he'll share with you later too the importance of it and also the benefits that you got gained from that. But that was the hardest part for him. And I knew that. And that's also why I devoted a whole summer to baking and cooking and making all the foods that you like to such a degree that you couldn't tell the difference between the main stuff and the gluten-free and dairy-free stuff. So that was huge. But you know, I wanted to tell him that because I'm so proud of him. It took work on both of our parts. It was not easy. It was a long journey too. It was a long journey, but you know, in my practice, with everything I'm dealing with all of my clients, and even with my own healing journey, healing is not easy, and we don't always get there right away. Now, he was young when but he was still 7. That's an old age to be diagnosed with something like autism, because the earlier that you can be diagnosed, you know, the sooner that you can be putting things in place. But we struggled very hard with a lot of complications in trying to figure out what was going on with him. So we didn't get an actual diagnosis until he was 7. And that's okay. I think there was purpose in everything. And it's also a huge testament to the fact that even without early intervention, with the right protocols and with God moving ahead of us and him being called into all of it, anything's possible.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty cool. I wanted to jump back. Last week, you shared something, and I wanted you to expand on it a little bit. One of the recommendations you said was to go slow.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to clarify. Did you mean go slow or be patient? Or both?
Both.
Okay. Slow being when you're pushing people out of the comfort zone, or okay. Now I want to ask you a question.
Uh-oh. I don't like that
face. We have such fun dynamics. Okay, so it may have been uncomfortable, but when we pushed you, that's when you excelled.
Yeah.
So would you still recommend that? That maybe the recommendation might be for the children to be a little uncomfortable sometimes because the goodness is on the other side of that uncomfortableness?
Maybe hold back a little.
Okay, that's all right. So maybe go a little slower,
Mm-hmm.
but for the children to also be willing to be a little uncomfortable to bound out of there. Okay.
Yeah, not too much pushing, or you might push them away.
That's true. There is a fine line to that. And I think because of your and my connection, I could always tell where I needed to push you.
Mm-hmm.
And I also knew, like when we were homeschooling, when I needed to pull back, like when you were getting overwhelmed or, like you'd get frazzled or maybe a little angry. I knew that that you weren't being rude to me, that you were overstimulated or struggling with something. So I always knew to pull back. And often that's when we would we would switch gears and go to gym. And you didn't always like that because you didn't like switching gears, but it always served you.
I definitely didn't like switching gears.
Yeah. And I really think this is an important part of the protocol is paying attention to your children, because that's what it took for me as a parent to really understand where he was and what he was going through. So it was like kind of making it a point to try to be in his shoes, trying to understand where he was at, and also learning to read him, reading his facial expressions, his overwhelm, and knowing in my heart that regardless how he behaved or what kind of outbursts he had, his heart was genuine. His heart was good. He didn't want to be doing those things. So what was causing him to act that way? That was really important because, I'll never forget it when we were in the grocery store one day and you had an outburst and I couldn't grab you from behind and sit down with you and calm you in the middle of the aisle, though the thought did cross my mind. But the store manager came up to me and he's like, "You need to control your child." I didn't say anything to him. Inside, there was a lot of things that were spewing that I would have liked to let go out of my lips, but I didn't say anything. I contained myself, and that was kind of like a moment where I was like, you know what? You have no idea what's going on here. And that made me really learn to hone in better and try to understand him, because that man did not understand what was going on between the two of us and what was happening. It wasn't that I wasn't reprimanding him or trying to, diffuse the situation, but it was what it was. And I know that any of you that are listening that have autistic children or children on the spectrum or special needs children, these things happen. And it's people like that grocery store manager that could set things off just because of his rudeness and his ignorance and his lack of understanding. And that's where we were really blessed with all your teachers, because they all had an understanding. Everybody we came in contact with, that was just, that's really, of all of the circumstances we've ever had, that was like the only really negative one. But it was still a teaching moment for me and a learning lesson for me, because yeah, I could have left my full cart there and I could have walked away, But I wanted to also teach him that he needed to understand that we are in a grocery store, and I know you're having an outburst, but we need to finish this task and we need to make it through it. So what do we need to do? And that's where we're going to begin, I guess, with the therapies that we put in place, because I was green. I had no idea. There wasn't much known about autism at that point, although I shouldn't say that. I mean, the doctor that we ended up working with the hyperbaric had been working with special needs children for 25 years, but it wasn't in the media. And, at that point there wasn't, the internet was new and it wasn't as vast as it is now. So it took a lot of, really learning on my part and honing in on the people that did know. And like I said, we were very fortunate to connect with that doctor. So the school was fought to get him diagnosed, but we were fortunate enough to connect with a woman that did evaluate him, and he was considered PDD-NOS at the time. I know that all the diagnoses and everything is so very different. Everything is referred to very differently today. But he was high spectrum and Asperger tendencies. And
who came up with that name?
I know, right? Well, if you'd see me,
it sounds so inappropriate.
What's that? Asperger's? Oh. Oh, wow, that's funny.
You didn't realize.
I didn't. No, I didn't understand. I'm spewing. I didn't know which particular thing you were talking about, but that's so funny. Yes, I know the names they come up with and the medication names and all of that. I'm like trying to communicate that in my classes and online, and it's like, how do you even pronounce half of this stuff? You can't. That's why whoever did that needs to really be like.
Yeah. They were just coming up with a cuss word.
Well, and a lot of times the names that are put on, my mic again. The names that are put on things are often somebody's last name. So think about that.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah.
That's a weird last name.
I know, right? Right. So anyway, went down a little bunny trail there. We do that a lot. But so the first doctor that we connected with was Dr. Graham's. He's no longer practicing, and I'm trying to get in touch with him because the big thing we did with him was hyperbaric oxygen. That was one of the big things we did with him. And even then, he rented out the equipment, so people all over the globe were contacting him, and he was shipping out hyperbaric chambers so that you could use them in your home. And I'm really trying to connect there to see if that's still an option, because his office manager had taken over that side of things. And if those are still available and they are still doing that, I'm going to share that in the show notes. So stay tuned on that. And if I can't get an answer for like when this show goes out and something comes in the future, I will share that, because it is. And also on faithledhealing.com, I will be putting a post out in regard to this podcast that I will continue to add to for all of the autism resources that I feel are extremely worthy and valuable for all of you that are dealing with autism at whatever level. So so that was one thing, the hyperbaric oxygen therapy, which was absolutely tremendous. Absolutely. It was, though. It was so cool. I mean, that was the first time I heard you speak in a sentence.
Mm-hmm. It's just
I know.
You said it.
I know. As you can see, we have a good time together. But it was mind-boggling to me. The other thing that this doctor did was we did a hair tissue mineral analysis on Austin, and we switched from I'm not going to say a sad diet, but
sad.
the American diet, the normal American diet is a sad diet, but I was still cooking from scratch, but I was also using packaged foods at the time. This is, he's 28, so this is 21 years ago. And that was when I started really morphing over from the processed foods to 100% whole foods and gluten-free, dairy-free. So he put us on the gluten-free, dairy-free diet. which was very difficult then. There were not a lot of options, and the bread really was like cardboard. It was like the creepiest thing.
And the cheese was like chalk.
Yeah, it was very strange things. Praise the Lord for all the people that have stepped up and have made things available for people on such a diet.
They made it taste better.
Right. Yes. So
Way
much better.
better.
And then also just my learning, I have a cookbook, and I teach people how to convert regular recipes to gluten-free and dairy-free. And we really focused hard on, turning our favorite recipes into gluten-free and dairy-free, that you just couldn't tell the difference, because otherwise I was making two of everything because my husband could tell the difference, and he didn't want to suffer along with us. So, but we did figure it out, and that was huge. Now, like you said, that was the hardest part. Though once I got it perfected and I figured out what we needed to do, it was a lot easier, because there were even times you couldn't tell the difference, and I still do it, and he still can't tell the difference. So that's a benefit. If you can, and that's the benefit of years later, that there are things available. Gaia has a whole lot of pizzas out there, and there's French fries, and there's a lot of companies that have really good, if you don't like making things from scratch and yourself, there are some really good companies that have really good gluten-free and dairy-free processed foods, but that are healthier processed foods. So I will share those kind of links in the description as well. This is something that's really important to understand with autism. With autism, there is typically some commonalities across the board and places you want to start. And in all honesty, if you're not running lab tests on your children, you're doing them a great disservice, because there's a lot going on underneath the hood. In that, there's a lot of times there is heavy metals, and there are mineral and vitamin deficiencies and imbalances. A lot of times because there is really poor gut health. There is candida, yeast, bacteria, SIBO, which is your small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And it's really important that you realize that, I don't know what he's laughing at. I'll find out later.
I'm thinking about cars.
What?
You said under the hood, so I'm thinking about cars. This
is the literal mind. This is so funny. Okay, so I was cautious in saying that. I probably should have held back, because that's just how he works. It's really funny. But under the hood, internally, get it out of your system. It's so funny. Well, and the other kids that might be on the spectrum that are watching are trying to totally get your logic. So it's pretty funny. Okay, it took us a little while to get over Austin's laughing. And, there's a good side to this. Humor is vital in life in general. But I imagine that if you have children or you are on the spectrum, you probably just got that extreme humor that he can't turn off. And that's one of the things about Austin that I love, is his literal mind, and how a very deep conversation can suddenly turn into something really funny, just that simply. But on a serious note, and you can keep laughing if you have to, but internally, children with learning disabilities usually have some of these things going on. So I run a Big 5 lab in my practice that helps to go through your hair tissue mineral analysis is the first one I had mentioned. So you've got your OAT, which is your organic acids test, which goes through candida, bacteria, mold, all of which are really toxic and ultimately cause neurological issues. Then you also have heavy metals, which again can play some very heavy roles in neurological dysfunction. Also, affecting your hormones and affecting your mineral and your vitamin intake, and being able to absorb things properly. When your gut is in poor health, so much stems from that. The other thing is food sensitivities, which is really important to look at, because you may not realize that you have sensitivities to the food. You know, we knew he had problems with wheat and dairy, dairy being an extreme one, but both. And we knew that. But if you don't know that, and there aren't really things surfacing extremely that would give you the indicators, that means there's a lot of inflammation in the body coming from those hidden sensitivities. And that inflammation causes the gut to be imbalanced. It causes histamine to play a role, and excessive histamine to be dumped in the body. Histamine is in the body. It's meant to be there. It has a purpose. And our bodies are actually doing what they're supposed to do, but everything's exacerbated by the gut dysfunction. So intensified by the extreme gut. That's exactly what it means. That's exactly what it means. Everything's intensified. I don't know. Everything's intensified by the poor gut health. So it's really important that you are running the lab so that you can get a clear picture of what's going on inside your child or inside yourself. And once you get those things under wraps, you can really address each of those things and rebalance the body. And that is how we've progressed and gotten to this place. And it's so amazing. And the thing is, it's not that the medical system is really overlooking this. It's just that it's out of their scope of practice. So it's really important, I think, that you have a PCP, but also that you have an integrative health practitioner or a naturopath that you're working with that is able to take you down this discovery path of getting to the root cause. And that has been vital. So, and that's important for you to know, because poor gut health is truly the basis of all dis-ease in our world today, along with toxicity. And that toxicity creates that poor gut health. So it gets compounded and it becomes a vicious storm if you're not able to get to these root causes. But when you are able to get to these root causes, look at what happens. This is awesome. This is so awesome. He went from being a nonverbal child that was excessively angry and overstimulated and having outbursts all throughout the day to this very calm, cool, collective, funny guy. And that's that was one of the greatest things. That was my aha moment with Dr. Grams. Really, aha. It was my aha moment.
Aha.
Yes. The day that you spoke to me in the car on the way for our next hyperbaric therapy, and that in that same moment you said to me, I really like this diet because I'm starting to feel better and I don't feel like I'm on a roller coaster all the time. It was like, what? Who are you? Where'd you come from? What'd you do with my boy? But it was also that you could express that to me and you could share with me how you felt, where all this rest of the time I was getting a one-word answer and I had no idea how he was feeling. So it was like just, shooting in the dark. But I kept shooting in the dark and I kept shooting in the dark and I kept shooting in the dark till we got to places like that. And the other important aspect of this is my intuitiveness was not my own. That was the spirit guiding me and leading me to the things that he needed to help him get well, to help him be a better, enjoy life and to be a better person. So we're going to just continue to cover some additional things that we utilized during his journey. So to help calm him in a school setting, even in homeschooling, because that was necessary. There was just a lot coming in. And I'm going to step back. One of the things before we did that was the yoked prism glasses. Mm-hmm. And that really helped you a lot. Mm-hmm. So let me explain that. And then you can explain kind of how that felt for you. The yoked prisms, we found an eye doctor, again, absolutely divine, totally out of our area, but recommended to us. Honestly, I'm trying to think. I don't even remember how we got connected with him. Very great doctor, very great man. Understood, the dynamics, and worked with special needs children, and just people that have gone through trauma too, because the yoked prism glasses help. His description was this: our eyes are how we see the world. And for an autistic child, everything is coming in and there's no insulation. Where we have insulation, we can buffer, we can decide not to be affected by things, where everything's just pouring in and pouring in and pouring in and just overstimulating on the spectrum. So the yoked prism glasses helped to calm that input. And it didn't change the way their vision was. It didn't change their prescription in the regard to their 20/20. It just helped calm the eyes, which in turn calmed the body. And so what were things you noticed with those?
It just made it easier on my eyes, and I wasn't always stressed out by it.
Okay.
Everything seemed to be like either too bright or too loud.
In the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And then the glasses calmed the too bright and the too much. And then you learned how to deal with the loud. And we'll go into that. The one thing I want to mention that this conversation triggered is what we found with Austin was that he did not metabolize calcium well, which is an insulator and a buffer to all that's coming in. And he therefore did not maintain his magnesium levels and his zinc levels very well. So those were things that he was on a daily basis. Now, I had found companies because he really struggled to swallow pills, and I'm sure that there are others that have that problem. And in my practice now, I use a lot of tinctures and liposomal liquids that make it so much easier. And we at the time found chewables and liquids to help in that process, because that was a great struggle. And to help with the calcium, we used a homeopathic spray that helped metabolize the calcium. So I will be sharing links for all of these things I'm talking about in the show notes. So you don't have to worry. You don't have to be writing things down frantically. Just go to faithledhealing.com/podcast-58. And also, I will link up my autism blog post, where I will also that will be my hub that I will constantly be updating with new things. So that will be linked in there also. So that was something that we did, which also helped calm him down. Again, the dairy, getting rid of the dairy, because like I said, dairy was like an LSD trip. He was like all over the place. And that's exactly how how Dr. Grams had described it. It's like giving them LSD. And that's like shocking as a parent to hear. So of course we got rid of dairy. And again, dairy was so much of a hazard for him, because it not only gave him the emotional roller coaster ride, but it blocked the sensation of his bowels, which means that when he had to go to the bathroom, he didn't know it. He lost full sensation of that. And I felt so terrible for him. And in a school setting, we all know kids are terrible and will just like come in like sharks if there's any reason to make fun. And that is definitely a drastic one. So that was one we really wanted to work on. And that's why I worked so hard. And at one time we did a colonic with him, and the doctor said that his bowel muscles were that of an 80-year-old, because we had problems with certain family members continuing to give him dairy and
But I
gluten.
took it.
Yes, I know, when you were young, but then you did get to a place where you became your best advocate and realized the harm you were doing to yourself.
Yeah,
so
and after a while, my body got over having to worry about dairy and wheat.
Absolutely. And isn't that awesome? And okay, so the reason that is because he got to a place where he balanced all of the deficiencies and all of the toxins and all of the yeast and the bacteria and all of that junk. And when you get all of that stuff out of the way and you become healthy, your body can handle things differently. And you know, the reactions he was having to those things initially may very well have been a result of all of that deficiencies and toxicity in his body. So that is a beautiful thing, though it is really important until you get those things balanced that you do stay strict on the diet and honor it, because to be, let's see, you were probably 13 or 14 at the time, to be told that his bowels are that of an 80-year-old is alarming, and a great concern. So, you know, we share both sides of this, you know, that he cheated, but also that, you know, he understood later the harm he was doing to himself. So I hope that those of you listening, you know, we want to please our children, but we have to be the parent. We have to be the role of the parent. Now we're good friends, but I needed to play that role of the parent and be, you know, the bad guy in keeping him from those things, because it was affecting his health. It was impairing his future if I didn't be the parent. So I say that because it's important for your children's health, their well-being, and their future, that you learn how to deal with the potential issues that you may have to, you know, create a hard line, and make them follow protocols, even though they don't like it. They will appreciate you later. And, you know, there were some tough times that we had to go through in me playing that role, and him having to, you know, be restricted in some ways. Here he is at 28 with his whole life ahead of him, and he's healthy, and he's doing really well. He's thriving. And to me, that was worth all of those moments that I had to create a bit of conflict for him to be healthy. So I share that, you know, lovingly, because this is where we want him to be. And with what I'm sharing with you today, it wouldn't need to take so long. It took us longer because I didn't have a person to go to, and I didn't know all the people, but Papa kept guiding me to the people that I needed, and then he guided me to become that person for you. So I'm excited about that role, because I know, and this is something that may not just end here. Faith-led healing is what I'm praying to be our family empire, my legacy that I'm leaving behind, that this is something he can take over, because he does have a great passion for helping people. And how amazing would it be for somebody that had autism to be able to help those with autism to get to that place. Pretty awesome. We've talked about this. You know, so, you know, sky's the limit. With God, all things are possible. So, you know, who knows what Austin's path is, but I know that he will be embracing it in a healthy way. And that makes me so happy. So I spoke about the essential, I think I started talking about the essential oils. If not, that was something else we used for school. And we used, I liked a lot of essential oils. I utilized doTERRA's essential oils for this process, and we used ylang ylang, chamomile, vetiver. Vetiver is a great essential oil for individuals on the spectrum. Because I know the names are funny. I know. Vetiver is very thick and it smells very earthy. It smells like dirt, but it is one that really, really helps. The other one was Balance. I think I'm missing one.
Breath.
The Breathe. We use the Breathe also. Yeah. I feel like I'm missing. Bingo. That was it. Lavender. Thank you. And you want to use lavender on older boys, because it can cause some hormonal issues in younger boys. But the ylang ylang, the chamomile, the vetiver, And Breathe was good just to help him kind of waken him up. Balance is one of those oils that your body knows what to do with it. It balances you. It does just what it says. So if you need to be creative and clear and alert, it'll wake you up. If you need to be put off to sleep because it's that time of day, our bodies are stinking miraculously made. They're so amazing. So those were oils we used. That was something he carried in his pocket all the time. And he could either put it on his wrists and rub them together, or up here underneath at his ears, or on his feet. At night, he would do it on his feet, or in the morning before school. But he could carry it with him. And, something simply as just opening it up and smelling it. It's a great, great tool. And we utilized oils for a lot of different things. And that was, because they're easy to utilize. You can overuse them. So you do want to be cautious with that. And I want to say this, a lot of people think that when you're supplementing, more is better, but that's not always the case. So be cautious in your supplementation use and in your oil use, because, they're no different than prescription drugs. You can overdo it. You can overuse them. So be cautious with that. If you're not sure, if you're not certain, get connected with an integrative health practitioner. I would be more than happy to help you, or a natural doctor. Keep in mind, my entire practice is 100% virtual. So I can work with you from the comforts of your home, regardless where you are, what country you're in. It doesn't matter. I work with people in the UK, Germany, Australia, New Zealand, and it's an absolute blessing. So just wanted to put that out there, because a lot of people think that they're restricted because they're in a different place. But over the last several years, we've all seen everything going to a bit of a virtual place, and that's where I work out of. So let's see, what else did we do? One of the things that we also did was breathwork. I taught him how to use his own breath to calm the body. So that was really helpful. And that is really good because it really nurtures the nervous system. And for anybody on the spectrum, kids, adults, when you learn how to use your own breath to calm yourself in situations, and I wasn't aware of breath work when he was in school or when he was homeschooling, and it would have been a great tool, a really great tool to just pause and be able to breathe deeply and just calm the body. However, we gave him a lot of coping mechanisms. The oils was one, pausing and just walking away from situations when he's overstimulated and just giving him time to regroup. The best way to get him to regroup was exercise, rebounders, going for a walk. Those types of things are very, very helpful because it gets the endorphins going and it starts to calm the body. So doing things that give them joy. Everybody's different. So, we love to walk, we love to hike, we love nature. So that was just where we headed. But I also got him involved in pencil drawing and doing different types of art and things like that. So if you or your child are really into doing crafty, creative things, that is a great, great outlet. The other thing is incorporating those things into their schooling is also tremendous because it helps them to retain things that maybe they're not as much interested in. I will say this, and that was the case for him. There were certain things that he didn't retain because they didn't interest him, but man, when they did, because he's a coin collector. And I'll tell you what, you ask him right now off the cuff about any kind of coin, he'll tell you all about it, hands down, because he can retain that because it's something that interests him. So if your children struggle or you struggle to retain things or to be able to participate in things and enjoy things because you can't remember that portion of it, add a creative element to it, whether you're drawing while you're doing it or whatever, having music going, add a creative element to it, and that will help tremendously for them to remember things. So one of the other things that we are utilizing right now is a tremendous tool. And I wish we would have had these sooner. These are an amazing product that really, really supports the body. So we are both involved in this. And again, like I said, this I'm hoping is a legacy business, because I would love to see him taking over where I leave off in continuing to help people. So this is a new product that we were introduced to not too terrible long ago. And this is the X39 patch. It is by LifeWave. And I'm going to share Austin's link now, and I'm going to share it in the description. And I'm going to say right off the bat, it is an MLM company, but don't block me out now. MLM is a multi-level marketing, which means that, there's commissions involved and different levels. And I've been in MLMs before, and I've kind of sworn them off. I did my part, my time, but I have committed to this because I am seeing the results from this product. And
yeah, it's crazy how it's helping just plants grow.
yeah, I have. Okay, let me explain what it is, and then we'll return back to the plant. So the X39 patch is phototherapy. So think red light therapy, only you don't need a red light therapy machine. You just need the patch. It is the size of a quarter, and you just stick it in the back.
Bigger than a quarter.
Okay, it's between a quarter and $50. That's so funny.
Like a dollar coin.
Okay. I stand corrected. But it's thin. It's a sticker. Don't let your kids get a hold of these and stick them all over everything, because these are really important for your health and healing. So this is the X39, which is which is the patch I would recommend to everybody. And what this does is the body's own light reflects into this patch and reflects back into the body. So it is basically, light therapy, like you would go out in the sunshine. The only thing is that most of us don't get enough sunshine. And the sunshine really activates the body and the immune system and our senses and our brains and everything. So we're all deficient, we're all toxified. And what this patch does is it activates the copper peptide in the body, which then stimulates and helps produce more stem cells in the body, which is boosting your immune system immensely. And it also nurtures the mitochondria. By wearing these patches, you are really, this makes me so happy because it's very similar to my breath work. I am using my breath to we are using our breath to heal our bodies and to activate our immune system, open up our lymphatic system, and nurture the nervous system. This right here is doing the same thing. So why I'm excited is because I'm watching the body being given the boost it needs to do everything on its own. Mm-hmm. And that is tremendous. We don't need big pharma. We don't need a zillion supplements. We are allowing our body's own immune system to get ramped up and our brain to be really nurtured. I mean, I think of all the people with just brain fog in our world. These patches are unbelievable. So hangnail to cancer, these are something that will support the body. And I don't say that, I say that in a funny way, but I'm not joking. I burned myself on the wood cook stove the other day. My big dog knocked me into the wood stove, and I burned myself on my leg in a tender spot. And it was a busy day. I didn't put lavender on it. I didn't bandage it. I just threw my jeans on and went about my day. And at the end of the day, I was like, oh, wow, that blister's probably blown open. I'm going to have to really clean it out. It was a big blister, big burned area. The blister's gone, non-existent. And the area that I was burned was like a very light pink on the body. And I was just blown away. But what got me hooked on these patches is a dear friend of mine's little boy was attacked by a rooster, and he had 27 stitches in his eyeball and all around his eye. And they got sent up to Portland, and we're looking at a prosthetic eye. And a friend of hers, Dr. Stillman down in Florida, sent her some patches. So she put these patches on and was doing some castor oil treatments and some additional red light therapy, and stopped all the additional treatments and was just using these patches. And the surgeons were just blown away. This little boy's eye is intact. It is working as it should. There was cataracts and different things that had set in from the injury that are totally gone. Like, it was just mind-boggling. So there's a lot of stories on the patch, and a lot of testimonials. I did a webinar on it, and if you'd like more information, you could go to faithledhealing.com/webinar. Austin's link is biggerthanautism.com/lifewave, and you can check it out. It's the X39 patch, and the reason I share this is because, how are you feeling on it?
Good.
Like, lots of energy and
Mhm.
and your brain power. Explain in your words, not mine, because I'm like,
So it's actually working really good. I don't have as many headaches with it, and I actually feel a little better when I have it on.
I got to get in touch with Dr. Z. But anyway, and you know what, we're going to do a separate one on your eye therapy. We will do a separate podcast and give a big shout out to Dr. Z on the eye therapy, because I bet there's a lot of other individuals that are suffering from the same thing, because you didn't crawl the way you should have initially, and the crawling is what helps the eyes to mature, grow, do what they're required to do. So we're going to share totals, because we're getting long here.
Mm-hmm.
But the patch is something that is helping him internally, brain, body, healing, energy, hair growth. We'll probably do a whole separate thing on that. Because these things are incredible. I have hair growth because I was losing a lot of hair. I didn't have eyebrows because of my healing journey. So, you know, I should say I have them like right here, but the far sides were totally gone because of all the toxicity. So anyway, that's a whole different subject. We just came up with like 3 or 4 more topics we'll cover. But these are the things that we did with Austin. And just putting patience and love and kindness and understanding into the mix with some natural therapies, and really learning how to rebalance the body, stepping him out of his comfort zone, allowing him to work at his own pace instead of being pushed. Yes, we pushed him out of his comfort zone, but schooling was at his own pace. Things were, being able to really adjust to our children, listen to our children, learn our children, understand them, be their advocates, and fight forward for them. I shouldn't say that, win forward for them. That's the positive side to that. And realize that all things are possible with God. I mean, I can't take credit for any of this. I'm giving God all the glory. And putting God into that equation, pulling God into that equation, seeking him for direction and wisdom and knowledge, and to get you to the right people and to get you to the right resources and that. And I know that this process can be very expensive. I lived that out too. But through what we've learned, there's a lot of ways you can do all of these things on a shoestring. And as far as the lab testing goes, there is a strategy to doing those in a specific order so that you're not wasting your money. And if you do them in that specific order, you can space them out and get good results. But if you do them out of order, you're throwing your money away, because you'll never get rid of everything in the gut and in the body that needs to be gotten rid of. So keep that in mind. And that is something I teach on and educate on. And if you are interested in, connecting with me for questions, or or getting on my calendar, I do offer a 30-minute free consultation, and you can find that by going to faithledhealing.com/calendar. If you have questions for Austin on what it was like, things that he did, because I know over the years we've had other children reaching out, and their parents would ask us questions. So the sky's the limit here. Don't hesitate to reach out to us, because we want to be able to help you guys in whatever way we can. And Austin also does things within our community. We're starting to we've had a kids corner where we've done that, but we're also looking into doing a teens corner, and getting the kids together to gather kids alongside of our other community that is just parents. So if that's something you'd be interested in, let us know. But go to podcast at faithledhealing.com and let us know if you have questions. Is there anything else you'd like to add? This was a long one, and I apologize, but I think that you'll gain a lot from this. And again, I'm just going to say right now, go to faithledhealing.com/autism. That's what I'm going to create the post under. And that will always be out there and forever growing as there's new things and therapies. There's a couple new other things that I thought of that we did for self-care. So we're going to do a separate podcast on autism self-care, because there are ways to help nurture our kids and us as individuals, to help us learn how to step away from the fast pace and to calm the body and mind. The compression swing came to mind. So anyway, we're going to end it here. But did you have anything else you wanted to share?
Not that I can think of right now.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for joining me. Thank you for your input on this. And again, I'm like super proud of you, because I couldn't have done this alone. I could have. It would have been like hair. I would have had less hair, grayer hair. But I appreciate you and how you work with me, and the relationship that we have. That this relationship that we've cultivated is a result of our journey. And I love this relationship. I wouldn't trade this for anything. He and I can talk about absolutely anything. And it's been an amazing journey, an amazing relationship, but now it's an amazing friendship. And, I treasure that a lot. And I know that you guys will get to this place too. We just need to put things in place. Be patient. And as I said, he was young when this happened, but it takes time. There's never a magic pill. Even, this is a beautiful new tool that we are using, and I'm using it with everyone in my practice. But even so, healing is a journey, and it takes time. So don't expect everything to work overnight, but celebrate your wins. How about it? That's really important. Celebrate your wins. Don't get lost in the despair of your circumstances, and the overwhelm and the tiredness for you parents and you kids that are just frazzled. Celebrate your wins, and celebrate them big. Every time you make a new achievement and a new you accomplish something new, celebrate it and focus on that, and keep focusing on your wins. Keep focusing on your wins, and eventually you'll get to this place. It's beautiful. How about it?
Yep.
So good. So good. I really thank you guys for joining us. I hope this was helpful, and we look forward to joining you on the next episode of the Faith-Led Healing Podcast. You guys take care, and God bless.
God bless.
Thank you for joining us on Faith-Led Healing, where every day is one step closer to your best life ever. We hope you enjoyed the show and encourage you to join us at faithledhealing.com. Connect with us on your favorite podcast app, and be sure to leave us a review. Remember, your best life is just down the path, the Faith-Led Healing path.